sometimes what I want to focus on is getting useful feedback about specific things in my spoken or written TOEFL responses. Other times, I want to see revisions. It's really the other side of the coin. For useful feedback, I want to see, okay, here's an issue, how can I fix it and why? For revisions, I want to see, okay, how could maybe improvements fit into a better version of what I said or what I wrote? How could I have written or spoken this better? And I want to see that version. But one challenge there is that if you see that better version, you can't tell what's different. It's kind of hard. So you're looking back and forth between yours and the improved version. So when it comes to revisions, we need a way to kind of label changes, right? Or identify things that are different. A simple way to do that is to put changes in bold, right? So that it's easy to see. So let's look at how we can do that. Again, we're in general feedback mode right now, not getting into very specific things with the context of the question, right? In the context of a dialogue or a lecture or a passage or something like that. We're focusing on English here, improving the quality of responses. So act as a TOEFL examiner, teacher, and feedback specialist. It's a lot of hats to wear, but somebody has to do it. I will provide a TOEFL text, and you will rewrite an improved natural version of the same answer. An improved natural version of the same answer. This is the important part, highlighting all changes in bold for easy identification. It is very difficult to identify differences if you're just looking back and forth between two texts. Very difficult. Do not provide spelling or punctuation corrections. Delete that if you want those types of corrections. Only do that if it's a written response, because when you speak, you don't speak in spelling or punctuation. So if spelling or punctuation is wrong, it's not because of you. It's because of the speech-to-text that you used. So it's only giving feedback to the speech-to-text software. Don't only provide feedback on mistakes. As a feedback specialist, you should also provide suggestions on giving a more effective response. After providing the entire improved version, give a detailed explanation of, again, why, this is the unifying thing, why the improved version is better. And why do we need to know why? We need to know why because if we don't know why, then how can we really make progress? I need to see what should be improved, and I need to understand the reason so that I can start doing it, so that I can start naturally fitting it into how I say things, how I write things. There's a feedback loop there, and understanding why is an important part of that loop. Again, you might say what we looked at before with useful feedback and this are really two sides of the same coin. Two sides of the same coin. Two ways to approach improvements that we can start to integrate and implement, okay, into our speaking and writing. Clearly explain each revision you made. If you understand, say, I understand. There's no particular reason to do this in 2 steps other than sometimes you get better results if you do. So we're going to try it in 2 steps where I paste in the text I want to use after I get I understand. It can be a good way to sort of break things up, right? Here, this is what I want you to do. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. Then you go to the next thing. All right, I understand. Oh, fantastic. I'm glad to hear it. Here's my text. Now I paste in my text. Okay, here we go. Here's the improved version with changes in bold. Confirmation bias is when people seek out information that supports what they already believe. For example, if someone thinks that left-handed people are more creative, they might only notice creative works by left-handed artists and ignore those by right-handed ones. Okay? This is called bias and can affect scientific research because scientists might focus on data that supports their ideas and ignore data that contradicts them. In everyday life, confirmation bias can influence decision-making by making people less open-minded to different views. And I can see very clearly the things that are different. So going back and forth between the two versions, confirmation bias is when people look for information that supports what they already believe. Confirmation bias is when people seek out information that supports what they already believe. Okay, that definitely does sound more natural. Okay, so we have a better version. Now we'll look at a follow-up to this, but let's look at the explanation first. Obviously, was removed. Look for was changed to seek out. I think that's better in this context as a more formal and precise term. Left-hand people was corrected to left-handed people. Left-hand people, I mean artists, was streamlined to left-handed artists. Yeah, so this is a spoken response, of course, right? You wouldn't write probably. Left-hand people, I mean artists. Not great. Ignore right-hand ones was changed to ignore those by right-handed ones to improve clarity and grammatical correctness. This is called bias. This is called bias. Can affecting, can affect. Scientists might focusing. Scientists might focus. Supports their idea. Supports their ideas. Plural. Ensures subject-verb agreement. Ignore data that going against was changed to ignore data that contradicts them. Much better, right? So these changes, and it's a comprehensive list of the things that are different, again, allow me to isolate those things that are weak areas for me, ask myself if this is because I made a mistake or I haven't built up that habit, or whether I just don't know this, right, and I need to learn. It forces me to notice things like patterns and frequency. Ooh, I do this a lot. I need to work on that, right? And it shows me the improvements in context. So basically, here is how I would have said what you were trying to say. Now notice this isn't a full revision in the sense that it's not ChatGPT trying to just completely do it over from scratch, right, by itself. It's taking what I did and sticking with mostly what I said, right, and just improving things. I can ask for, if I want, a full revision, a full rewrite. There you might use the word rewrite to get a sort of fully native sounding version. Because, yeah, there are things here that, for example, I might not say that I might maybe explain differently. So I would say, for example, the part about ideas sounded slightly odd to me. Supports their ideas, maybe supports their hypothesis. I might use that word there. I mean, I would say it differently. So we can look at then how we can follow up with other versions that are complete rewrites. We need to see this first, though. Then we go down to why the improved version is better. Okay, this is where we can learn a little bit more about not just what's different, but why it's different. Clarity and precision. The improved version uses more precise language, such as seek out instead of look for, consider instead of get. This makes the text clearer and more professional. Conciseness, redundant or unnecessary phrases, a major issue, right? Very, very common issue. I mean, were removed, making the text more concise and easier to read. Grammar and syntax. Corrections were made to ensure proper verb forms, subject-verb agreement, and adjective use, improving the overall grammatical correctness of the text. Those are common issues maybe that I'm having. Flow and readability. The improved version has better sentence flow and structure, making it more readable and engaging. And here I could say, reply, give me some specific examples of sentences used to improve flow in this passage, right? I could say it like that as a follow-up question. Again, you can follow up just like we did previously. Consistent use of terms like left-handed and right-handed enhances the coherence. I was using them inconsistently. And vocabulary, the improved version uses more advanced vocabulary appropriate for an academic context, such as polarization instead of polarize, and focus instead of focusing. Okay, so this is great. And again, I can grab any specific thing I'm not clear about and ask a question, right? Like this, just click that and ask a specific question or ask for more information or more context. Now we could say provide a full rewrite of this text in the style of native spoken English. In case I want to see other versions of it. Sure, here's a full rewrite of the text in the style of native spoken English. Confirmation bias is when people look for information that backs up what they already believe. For instance, if somebody thinks left-handed people are more creative, they might only notice creative works by left-handed artists and overlook right-handed ones. This kind of bias can mess with scientific research because scientists might zero in on data that supports their ideas and brush off data that goes against them. In everyday life, confirmation bias can affect decision-making by making people less open-minded to different views, which can lead to social polarization. To tackle confirmation bias, we should try to consider various viewpoints and be more critical of the information we take in. That's a really good one. That's a pretty good response. Let's see. Try again and make it more academic. This can be a full rewrite and doesn't need to stick to original phrasing. Just another way to say that. Just want to look at different versions. What does this allow me to do? It allows me to explore. Okay? So number one, I have a question I'm working on. I try to answer it. I do my best, right? Speech to text. I copy and paste that in. With this prompt, I get a version with any improvements, right? Clearly labeled. I can see, okay, that's different. And then a breakdown explaining a little bit what has been changed and why it has been changed, right? Some additional context. But then I can continue exploring. I can ask follow-up questions, and I can get these variations and versions that might allow me to find new language, see how I might have said something differently, give me ideas about how I can answer the next question, right? And I can go through these variations asking for more casual responses, more academic responses, phrased in a more native-sounding way, maybe completely rewritten from scratch. You could even try that. We'll try that next. But the idea is I can explore. The exploration is critical for discovery and for that process of, ooh, I could have done this, I could have done that. Maybe I'll think about this next time. Always opening you up to new possibilities. But you can see already we're getting farther and farther away from the original, which is fun, right? Confirmation bias occurs when individuals selectively seek out information that supports their pre-existing beliefs. Definitely more academic. Okay, so that's a good one. Let's try do another version in native spoken English as a response to a TOEFL speaking question. Start from scratch. Start from scratch means don't even consider the previous answer, right? It should be on the same topic, but okay, here's a TOEFL speaking question. I'm not being too specific here. We're not being too fussy about providing the question. You could try to do that, but we're going to look at that next. Confirmation bias is when people tend to look for information that confirms what they already believe. For example, if someone thinks that left-handed people are more creative, they might only notice creative works by left-handed artists and ignore work by right-handed artists. This bias can really affect scientific research because scientists might focus on data that supports their theories, I like that, and ignore data that contradicts them. We could try write it completely from scratch, do a full rewrite rather than a simple revision. Okay, rewrite is a little bit more, we could say, farther away from the original. Confirmation bias is when people focus on information that confirms their existing beliefs while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. For instance, if someone believes left-handed people are more creative, they might pay attention only to the creative achievements of left-handed artists and overlook those of right-handed ones. This bias can significantly impact scientific research, as it can lead scientists to favor data that supports their hypotheses and dismiss data that challenges them. This is great. Okay, so again, just a process of exploration. I encourage you to have a playful mindset about this, to explore versions and variations, in addition to getting feedback on the other side of the coin, right? And seeing how what you said or what you wrote could be improved. You're also then starting to play around, and that process of exploration is very powerful. Okay, now we're going to go on and talk about getting a score.